now we come to one of the funnest passages in A Pluralistic Universe by James. James, drawing his conclusions in Lecture 8, says, "Why cannot experience and reason meet on this common ground? Why cannot they compromise? May not the godlessness usually but needlessly associated with the philosophy of immediate experience give way to a theism, now seen to follow directly from that experience more widely taken?" Okay, so we associate empiricism, the idea that knowledge comes from experience, we associate it with godlessness. We associate it with not being religious. And at least in James' day, philosophers tend to associate religion with rationalism because there are all these Hegelian philosophers who are rationalists. They think knowledge does not come from experience. It comes from the mind alone in some way. Let's not rehash rationalism before Kant, rationalism after Kant, but the idea that knowledge does not necessarily come from experience, knowledge comes from the mind, is the general idea of rationalism, and the Hegelians are following that approach, and they're the religious philosophers, and the empiricists tend to be the atheists, or at least the atheists tend to be the empiricists. And James says, well, why can't we have it both ways? And why can't we have religion going both ways? And why can't religion be empirical? Why can't we understand that religion is empirical? Why can't we say that experience, understood to not exclude religious experience, support the hypothesis of the existence of God? Now, still the finite God. May not the godlessness usually but needlessly associated with the philosophy of immediate experience give way to a theism, now seen to follow directly from that experience more widely taken, and taking experience more widely than just the evidence of our senses, but also taken to include the testimony of religious experience, something people like Allama Iqbal will take up in their own writings? And may not rationalism, satisfied with seeing her a priori proofs of God so effectively replaced by empirical evidence, abate something of her absolutist claims? And meanwhile, if rationalism can have its proofs of the existence of God replaced by its proofs of the existence of God that are a priori, meaning not based on experience, if rationalism can have its proofs for the existence of God replaced with empirical evidence for the existence of God, then maybe we can cut back on an absolutist religion that says all is God and what happens by necessity, etc., and we can have a different kind of religion, a healthier religion, James would think. Let God but have the least infinitesimal other of any kind beside him. Allow for God to have just the tiniest bit of something else that's not God. Allow for not pantheism. And empiricism and rationalism might strike hands in a lasting treaty of peace. I shouldn't say not pantheism, just not monistic pantheism. Not all is God, not all is one. Allow that to be the case, and empiricism and rationalism might strike hands in a lasting treaty of peace. Both might then leave abstract thinness behind them and seek together as scientific men seek, by using all the analogies and data within reach, to build up the most probable approximate idea of what the divine consciousness concretely might be like. And then we can build up an idea of what God might be like using all the data we can, including religious experience, and analogies, thinking like scientific people, learning from experience, from data and analogy. All right, I think I will say a few words in summary if I can, and then read one or two more lines and leave it at that. Leave it at that for this video anyway. So James, in this passage, still in Lecture 8, is drawing his conclusions. Now, in this video, I don't think we're looking at a new conclusion. We're looking at a commentary on the methods. So far, if I can remember correctly and say it clearly, the conclusions he's drawn are probably there is such a thing as superhuman consciousness, as some divine mind, and probably we should think of a divine mind as not being the Hegelian absolute divine mind. The divine mind of Hegelian absolutism, we should probably not think of the divine mind as containing all reality. We should think of the divine mind as finite, in that there is something in reality that is not part of God's mind. And that was the second conclusion. So first conclusion, it's probable based on religious experience that there is such a thing as a higher divine consciousness that our minds connect to. Second conclusion, it's probable because Hegelianism has these mysteries it cannot resolve, these paradoxes that it can't make sense of. It's probable that the mind of God is finite and not everything is contained within God. So those are his first two conclusions. And here he is elaborating less on conclusion and more on method, less in what we should think and more on how we should think. But it's really important stuff about how we should think. And he thinks how we should think is empirically, but not just taking part of experience, sensory experience, and saying, that's all. No, we should take seriously all forms of experience, and religious experience is a genuine form of experience. Allama Iqbal, following James, is later going to say, this is an Islamic Indian subcontinent philosopher, Allama Iqbal. He's going to say, I'm going to paraphrase if I can't quote it, but maybe this will be a quote. I think you'll get it pretty close. The facts of religious experience are facts among other facts of religious experience. And skipping a couple words of Iqbal because I can't remember something, he brackets off in commas there. The facts of religious experience are facts among the facts among the other facts of human experience, and one fact is as good as another. So James will say the facts of religious experience must also be taken into account. And if we are prepared to think of God empirically, we can have peace amongst those rationalists who are saying God exists based on their arguments independently of experience, and we can replace that with empirical arguments. Peace between those rationalists and those empiricists who say knowledge can only come from experience, because if we recognize religious experience as a possible source of knowledge, and then try to use data and analogy the way science would to get knowledge about physical facts, use the same methodology to get knowledge of spiritual facts, then we can arrive at a working understanding of God and empirically reach some of the same conclusions that those rationalist Hegelian philosophers reach. So there I go, trying to just summarize some things, and instead I just paraphrase everything. Sorry about that. Let's just go to the last sentence. I love this. Let empiricism once become associated with religion, as hitherto, through some strange misunderstanding, it has been associated with irreligion, and I believe that a new era of religion as well as of philosophy will be ready to begin. Let's not associate empiricism with irreligion. Let's associate empiricism with religion, says William James, because the idea that they're not is some strange misunderstanding. I don't even understand it, says James. Speaking for myself, Mark Boone, I don't understand it either. Religion's empirical. I wrote an article on this. Google, can faith be empirical? Put it in quotes and you should find it. I do a little bit of William James and a little bit of Augustine, but also I comment on the Dalai Lama, representing Buddhism, Radhakrishnan representing Hinduism, C.S. Lewis representing Christianity, Allama Iqbal representing Islam, and Eliezer Berkovits representing Judaism. 5 1900s philosophers representing the 5 biggest religions of the world, and they all say, yeah, actually, our religion is totally empirical. And they go into detail on what exactly that means. I think this is right. I think religion is an empirical thing. And I think James is totally right about this. But never mind me. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't even be talking about myself. I'm just trying to explain James. James thinks it's only a misunderstanding that religion is not to be so associated with empiricism, because in James' empirical studies of religion, and this of course harkens back to his other book, The Varieties of Religious Experience, he finds religion is an empirical thing. Religion is based off of religious experiences. Let's recognize that religion is empirical and stop through some strange misunderstanding presuming that empiricism and religion are in some sort of conflict, and then we can have a new era of philosophy as well as of religion that's ready to begin, and that will be a good thing. It will be a better era. We will understand things more clearly. All right, empirical religion from James, but no new conclusion. More to come. Stay tuned if you're nerd enough to care about William James, A Pluralistic Universe.